In this video, I'm going to talk about the foundation writing paper in French GCSE. To begin with, we'll introduce the 4 questions and then we'll go through each one individually and how to prepare so that you can answer it to the best of your ability. So as you can see, the foundation paper is made up of 4 questions and it lasts for 1 hour and 10 minutes. Question 1 is a picture-based task and that is 20 to 30 words. Question 2, you have 4 bullet points and you have to write up to 40 to 50 words. Now question 3 is 80 to 90 words and this is your main task, which is worth 20 marks. Like question 2, you have 4 bullet points, but on this one, question 3, you have a choice of 2 questions, but you must only answer 1. And question 4 is the last question on the writing paper for the foundation, and you have 5 sentences to translate into French. Now, when you open this paper, you need to think about the marks that are available, as you can see in green, and also the timings. And unlike the listening paper, you can start wherever you want to start. So you may want to start on question 3, which holds the majority of your marks, a third, or you might want to start on the picture-based task just to get confidence up. You must give enough time and spend the majority of your time on question 3, as that is the main task, as I said, and gives you the most marks possible. So it's imperative that you plan, and we'll look at how we'll do that next with the picture-based task. The picture-based task is asking you to write 20 to 30 words, and you're asked to do 2 things, and that is 1, describe the photo that you were provided with, and 2, give an opinion. Therefore, you only need to write in the present tense. As you can see on the slide, I've given you some really important phrases that will enable you to answer and make a really good paragraph of around 20 to 30 words, no matter what the picture is. So we've got, in terms of describing the picture, we've got "C'est la photo, je peux voir," which means in the photo I can see. You could swap out "je peux voir" for "il y a," which means there is or there are. Regarding the opinion, I've put "j'aime," which is I like, "je suis fan de," which is I'm a fan of, "je n'aime pas," which means I don't like, "j'ai horreur de," which means I hate. And then in order to justify those opinions, there's 3 versions of because, which are car, parce que, and vu que, and finally say. As I said, after that, you would need to then add an adjective to make it make sense. Question 2 is a 40 to 50 word writing task. Now, as you can see by the example on the slide, you can see there are 4 bullet points, and the first 3 bullet points will always require the present tense. So there'll be something quite small. So in this example, your first bullet point is activities on the internet, the second one is an advantage, and the third one is danger. It's imperative that you read the task that it's asking you to write about. So for example, in this one it says, a French magazine is asking how young people use the internet, and you need to write an email to respond, and then talk about the 4 bullet points. The 4th bullet point will always require the future tense. So what I've done is, on this slide, you can see in the peach box, I've put some phrases in the future tense, apart from E, which is because, in order to enable you to write in the future tense. In my opinion, it would be a good idea to plan some very quick vocabulary for each bullet point before you start writing. So that could be a phrase, it could be a tense, it could be a opinion, a justification, or the combination of all of them, in order for you to make your life much easier when planning and completing this task. The biggest question, mark-wise and word-wise, that you have to produce in the foundation writing paper is the 80 to 90 word writing task. As I said in the introduction, you have 2 choices of questions. You need to find which one works for you, which one do you know the most about, which topic are you most confident with, and then choose that one. You only have to answer 1. In terms of planning wise, you need to work out what the bullet points mean, and also, once you're doing that, whether the tense required is past, present, or future. Now, there'll always be 2 present, 1 past, and 1 future. So pay attention to the time markers in particular in order to work out whether your bullet point is in the past or future. On the next part of the video, I'm going to show you how to use jottings to make your planning really successful, and this will enable you to get your ideas down clearly and then be able to write a really good solid 4 paragraphs on each bullet point and get the best mark possible. When planning for the 80 to 90 word on the foundation task, it's imperative that you work out, first of all, what the 4 bullet points mean. Now, the 4 bullet points, doesn't matter what the topic is. So for example, this one is ma région. It could be about school, it could be about hobbies. It doesn't matter what the topic is. The 4 categories of the bullet points will always be the same. The only thing that will differentiate will be the actual meaning of them related to the topic. So you might want to write down, first of all, that you will see 4 different categories, and those are past tense, future tense and 2 present tense. You can use that when working out the bullet points because you know that 2 of them are present tense, 1 past and 1 future. So if you look at our bullet points here, first of all, we've got comment est ta région, which means how is your region. So I know that that is going to be the present tense. It doesn't say how is or how was. So I'm going to write that one down. So I put how is your area. So I know it's thinking about an opinion for me. We need some justification, etc. And I put pres as an abbreviation of present tense. And I've ticked off 1 because I know it's that one. The second bullet point, there's aspect positive and negative de ta ville ou ton village, which I know means the positive and negative aspects of your town or region. And again, it's asking about opinions, justifications regarding the town, positive and negative aspects of it. And again, I know it's the present tense, so I'd make a note of that. Positive and negative aspects of my area, and again, it's present tense, so I've done my 2 present tense. So I know the next 2 will have to be the past and or future. So, bullet point 3, une activité récente dans ta région. When working out the tense of the bullet points, it's important to look at whether they include a time phrase or a time marker. So I can see this one includes récente, which I know means recent. Therefore, if I'm talking about things that happened recently, it's going to be in the past tense, and it's une activité, which means an activity. Therefore, it's a recent activity in my region or area. So I write that down, and notice that I put past next to it, so that when I am going to the fully planning stage, I know that I need to write in the past tense. My last bullet point, therefore, looking at this, so I've got present, present, past, so my last bullet point has to be in the future, and that's confirmed by the fact that it says le weekend prochain, which means next weekend. Therefore, tes projets pour le weekend prochain means plans for next weekend. And again, when I'm planning, I'm writing that down, and I'm writing what it means and the what tense I need to write in as well. Therefore, that's the first aspect of your planning procedure, is working out what the 4 bullet points mean, noting that it will have to be past, future, and then 2 forms of the present tense, and then noting them down in English, and that'll make the next stage of your planning really easy and clear. For the next stage of the planning, you should then note down jottings. Jottings is a good way to make sure that your ideas are concise. You've put down all of the things that you can think of, and then that'll make it a lot easier to create the paragraph rather than thinking off the cuff. So jottings is, if you have forgotten, it's the acronym justifications, opinions, tenses, time phrases, intensifiers, and then we've got negative structures and star structures. Now what you would do is for each of these 4 paragraphs here, you would note down for the 80 to 90 task at least 1 word or phrase from each of these in order to be able to write approximately 20 to 25 words for each bullet point. Remember, it's an 80 to 90 word task, therefore you should be writing approximately 20 words per bullet point. It's imperative that you explicitly reference each bullet point, so make sure that you plan for each one. Even if you write more for example, bullet point 1, for example, you write 30 words for that and 10 words for bullet point 4, that's fine as long as both bullet points are referenced. It's really important that you use, if you want to, the actual some of the phrases in the bullet points to structure your sentences or your paragraphs. So for example, in bullet point 4, I could start with le weekend prochain, because that explicitly shows the examiner that I'm talking about bullet point 4. If you don't explicitly reference all 4 bullet points, if that's not clear to the examiner, then the maximum marking out of 20 is 10, which is obviously not what we should be aiming for. So, as I was saying, regarding jottings, you make the acronym, which is like that, and then as you include it for each paragraph, you then tick it off to show that it's included. Now, J, O, T, T, I, those are the ones that you must include, okay? It's really important that you include at least 1 phrase of them. The negative structure and the star structure, those are kind of the fancy phrases. Now, it's not as easy as just literally noting down examples of these, okay? You need to make it relevant to your bullet point. So I'm going to work with bullet point 3 as an example, but it's imperative that when you do plan, you make note to what the bullet point is asking you, and not just noting down random justifications or opinions because you know them, but you need to look at the bullet point, what it's asking, and therefore make it relevant to the actual bullet point itself. So, as I said, we're going to work on bullet point 3, which is recent activity in my town. Now, I'm going to work on jottings, but I'm going to look at which one is most important, and for me, the most important one is tenses. It's imperative to look at my tenses, right? So look at my plan, I put past tense, so now my tenses have to be in the past tense. And like I said before, I'm making it relevant to the fact that my bullet point says recent activity in my town. So I'm thinking recent activity in my town. So I'm thinking of 2 really good phrases here. And these are tenses. I'll put tenses as my part of jottings. And I put je suis allé, which is I went, and j'ai fait, which is I did. 2 good past tense phrases, both irregular regarding the formation of them with the past participles and whatnot, and the auxiliary verbs. And they lead really nicely to allow me to talk about recent activity in my town. My next aspect of jottings that I'm going to think about are my time phrases. So in the bullet point itself, it had récent, but I'm going to use hier, which is yesterday, because that is a recent time phrase for me. So I've got my 2 T's done. My next one I'm going to think about are opinions. So I'm going to think of one opinion that I think would be really valuable, and I'm going to use j'aime vraiment. I'm going to keep it positive because that means I really like, sorry, and that's a good way to lead me into my next step, which would be justifications. So again, keeping it relevant, because I'm using the past tense here with bullet point 3, I'm going to use c'était, which means it was, and I've chosen two adjectives, which are captivant and passionnant. Now those are both positive adjectives, captivant meaning captivating and passionnant meaning exciting, and they link nicely to my opinion. So for example, I couldn't say that I really like something, but then say that it is boring. So they have to make sense. Those two have to link together. And then my final imperative part of the of jottings is the intensifiers, the I, and I've chosen assez, which means quite, and tellement, which means so. Now, as I said before, jotti, J-O-T-T-I, those are the bits that you have to do in order to be able to create a good quality paragraph. However, if you really fancy adding extra vocabulary and showing off the examiner, then you could add the negative structures and the star structures. So for my negative structure, I've chosen ne jamais, which means never, and then my phrase that I've put all together is je n'ai jamais visité, which means I've never visited. Like I said, I've kept it relevant to the task. So for example, recent activity in my town. So I could say, for example, I never visited the park or whatever I want to talk about, but it's relevant to my task. I haven't just chosen a random one. I've made it relevant to my task. And in the star structure that I've chosen is j'aurais voulu y aller, which means I would have liked to have gone. So that would be a really nice kind of combination. That would go really nice combined with the negative structure. So I said, I've never visited the park, however, I would have liked to have gone. And that allows me to get the connective however in as well. So that is how you would plan, and then that would allow you to be able to write a really nice, high quality, well organized paragraph for each bullet point. Now you can use the quadrant up here to plan, which we spoke about in class before and in master classes, or you can make a list of it like I have here, but it's imperative that you plan for all 4 bullet points. As I said, it's important to write down at least one word or phrase for each bullet point, for each part of jotting, sorry. And then you'd use the negative structure and the star structures to really show off the fancy vocabulary that you've learned. So just to confirm, the first thing you do with the 80 to 90 word task is to write down past, future and present tense times 2, and then you work out what each bullet point means, and then write the tense next to it. You would then write down the acronym of jottings, so JOTTINS, and for each bullet point, using either quadrant or a list, you would then write down at least one example of each aspect of jottings per bullet point. That would then allow you to make it really quick and easy to actually write up your piece of work. And it's very important that you write in 4 paragraphs to show a clear structure and clear kind of mode of thinking. The final question on the foundation writing paper is a translation task, which is out of 12 marks. As you can see in the example, you have 5 sentences. Questions A to C, or the first 3 questions, are always worth 2 marks, and questions D and E are 3 each, because they require something, for example, different tenses or just more detail. It's imperative that you have an attempt at all of the sentences. You can get marks for partial completion. So what that means is the fact that, for example, with question A, if you put my school is good, then you might get 1 or maybe 2 marks for partial completion. So it's imperative that even if you don't complete the sentence or part of it is wrong, you still have a go at it. If you're not sure what a phrase is, leave it blank, and then after you've done all the ones that you can do, come back to it and have an educated guess. Think what could fit. So think of cognates, or you can use synonyms to make it fit. But just to confirm, make sure that you attempt all phrases in French, not in English, and then this will give you a chance of at least getting 1 or 2 marks for partial completion. Finally, just to confirm, I've put some key ideas that you need to maintain whilst completing the foundation writing exam. Things, for example, making sure that you refer to every bullet point, that you need to check your tenses, and planning is imperative. This should enable you to give you the best chance possible to access the best marks for this exam. Good luck.